Hi Stampers, it's Christine from Christine's Stamping Spot. Thanks for joining me today on this Heritage Day long weekend. I hope you're all having a great long weekend. Hard to believe it's August already. So my question to you today is, do you remember tie-dye? And were you one of those people that made your own tie-dye shirts? I remember that. That's aging myself quite a bit, but I do remember those days, and it was very popular. And I think it's a bit on a trend again. So Stampin' Up! Came up with a great stamp to help us recreate that tie-dye look. And it is this one, the Spiral Die stamp. It's one large background stamp like this on rubber. So we're going to use this today to help us recreate that tie-dye look. Now, Sarah Douglas, our CEO, did a video where she showed off some projects using this, and I did have this stamp set already, and I've been meaning to use it, and this really made me excited to use it. And I'm going to show you some of the techniques that she did and some of the colors that she used, and I have a couple of samples to show you too. So we're going to start with a basic one to start. There's a couple different ways we're going to use this. So we're going to use it with our Stamparatus, which is a fabulous tool. So in here I just have a piece of our grid paper. So the first thing I'm going to do is put down my layer of basic white. This is cut at 5 1/4 by 4. And I'm just going to place it down and put little marks around the corner so I know where this should go if it shifts at all or if I need to reposition it. I know it will always be in the same place because we are going to use a couple of different techniques with this. Okay, so there you can see my little sort of grid marks or corner marks where I'm going to put this. Okay, so now what we're going to do is take our stamp, and we don't need to use our foam mat in here because this is rubber. You would use your foam mat in your Stamparatus if you were using photopolymer stamps because that would give them a little bit of give in the stamp. But because this is on rubber, we don't need to use that. So I'm just going to pretend my layer of basic white is here, and I'm just going to place this over top of those marks. And then I'm gonna close the door, give it a press, and pick this up. And that is where our stamp will stay. So I'm gonna bring in my stamp case because it's always great to have something underneath so it doesn't bounce when you're inking it up. Okay, so the first technique we're gonna do is just using one color of ink on our stamp. And so I'm going to place my paper there, and I'm going to go with Fresh Freesia, which is one of the new in colors. And so I might have to move this back and forth just so you see on the camera. So I'm just going to ink this up like so as best you can. I mean, the juicier your ink pad is, the darker color you're probably going to get. So I have that inked up and my paper is positioned. And so you're just going to close the door and push down. And just give it a good push all around. And ta-da! Here is our tie-dye. Is that just not so cool how that turns out? I think that's fabulous. Okay, so this would make a great card layer all by itself, but I know Sarah jazzed it up a little bit, and so I'm going to show you what she did too. So we're going to use So Saffron and Balmy Blue, and we're just going to sponge a little bit of these colors on top. So I'm going to take my blending brushes and start with the Balmy Blue, and I'm just going to do the blue over the top portion, sort of like an arc, or however you would like to do it. It's totally up to you. And this is really, for me, gives it a real kind of tie-dye feel. Okay, and you can add as little or as much as you like, or make it darker if you like it darker. You know, you can always add more. Okay, so there's my blue. And then let's bring in this So Saffron. And we're going to put this on the bottom. Okay. And just blend that in. You could use a different shade of the yellows. You know, we've got some different ones we can choose from, but I thought, well, this is a little softer and you can darken it up too. So there we go. I think that looks pretty cool, pretty tie-dye-ish for sure. So I turned this into a card, and this is what I did. So I used the Fresh Freesia as the base, and then the stamps that I used for this was Nothing is Better Than, which I thought is always fun for summer. So today is a cocktails kind of day, so I just stamped my little glass, colored it with some blends, cut this cocktails word out with the coordinating die, and then used a little bit of our ink color DSP underneath that. And I thought that was kind of a fun sort of summer card. Okay, so that's number one. So number two, we are going to actually try using two colors this time. So I'm just gonna clean off my stamp, the ink. You could use your chamois if you wanted, or I'm just using a wet rag. Okay, so now we're still going to use our basic white, but this time we're going to use two colors of ink, and there's a little trick to this. So we'll put that in there. So for this one, we're going to use Daffodil Delight and Flirty Flamingo. So let's start with the daffodil. I'll just ink this up. Okay. All right, so paper's in place, and we will just close the door and press down. Okay, and ta-da! There is our daffodil. So now I'm going to clean off the stamp because we want to use another color on top of that. Okay, so I'm going to use the Flirty Flamingo this time. Okay, so we're going to ink this up. Okay. And now what we need to do is turn our paper 180 degrees. So basically turn it the top to the bottom and reposition it in those lines. And that's just going to sort of offset our stamp a little bit. So you shut the door, give it another press, and ta-da! There is your tie-dye with two colors. So fun, so fun. And you can just go crazy with color combinations on these cards. They're just so much fun once you get started. And this is the card I did out of this. So I used Flirty Flamingo as my base, and the stamps that I used was the Sweet Ice Cream. So I used the popsicle images from here and the Happy Birthday. And so you can, you know, of course, use combinations for your popsicles too, which adds another element of kind of tie-dye sort of, and then just a little bit of the Freesia ribbon on top. So I thought that was also fun for a birthday card for the summer. Okay, so now our third one, we are going to do a different, well, a little bit different, just a little switch up here. So this time what we're going to do is stamp, oops, let me get this set up here. we are going to stamp on our colored cardstock. Okay, so this is our soft seafoam, which is a very pale green. And we're going to put that in our lines. And for these colors, we're going to start with mint macaron. And give that a press all over. Okay, so there's our mint. And then we will press this down. Give it a press. And stuck here. If your pad is a little juicy, it may stick to the stamp. So, oh, okay, so we missed a little spot there. So I'm just going to re-ink that up. And that is one of the beauties of this, is that if it's lined up in the same spot, it should cover the same spot. Now you'll notice I haven't been using the magnets because the stamp itself is so large that it would, it covers the whole piece of paper. So the magnets would just get in the way. So we're just going to reposition that. Press down here again. Let's see, on this side. And then there. So that covers it. A little bit off, but that's okay. We're still going to add a color on top. Okay, so this looks like, woo, more than just tie-dye here. Okay, so we're going to turn it 180 degrees, right? And this is the part that you can sometimes forget, is to turn your paper. So, all right, so then the second color is soft succulent. So we are going to ink that up. Let's see how much coverage we have this time. All right, so close the door. And ta-da, there it is. So that's really quite dark this time. So the sample I did was this one. A little bit different. It got a little bit darker here, but it's very much the same. And so for that, I used the Turtle Friends stamp set and the punch. So I did the large guy and then I did the little guy on top. And made it into a birthday card. So I used the soft succulent as my base and then just added my turtle and added a little party hat on top and a couple of champagne rhinestones, and that finished off that card. So another fun one. And so I just had a couple of other little samples I wanted to show you with different colors. So this one, or these two, I'm sorry, were done on basic white, and they started with Granny Apple Green, and then this one I used Bermuda Bay, and this one I used Coastal Cabana. So that's the slight difference in color there. And then two that Sarah did were just so cool. One was this one. Now, if you can see the shine in there. This used some embossing. So the way this was done was we put our paper in. Now this is on very vanilla cardstock. So we placed the paper, and then the first color we used was Bumblebee. Then we turned our paper 180 degrees and we used Cinnamon Cider. And then after we cleaned our stamp, we put Versamark on it, and we just tilted this a little bit out of the square, okay? Just to offset it that little bit, stamped with Versamark and then embossed with copper embossing powder, and that's what that shininess is. I think that's just amazing. I think this would look really good as a fall card, maybe with some pumpkins or fall leaves or our sunflower dies. I think that would look really cool. And then the last one that Sarah showed us was this one, which is cool for all the people that love black and white. This was started with a piece of smoky slate. And again, it's just with Versamark. So if you can see that shine there. So we inked up the stamp with Versamark and then embossed with white embossing powder first. Then we turned our paper 180 degrees, added more Versamark to the stamp, and then embossed with the black. And that's what came out. I thought that was so amazing. This would be a great masculine card. You can see a car on there or something else. I just think that's great. And I love the black and the white. That looks really, really cool. All right, so these were our projects today, and I hope you will give this technique a try and our spiral die. You will definitely have fun the more you use it, and I'd love to see what sort of color combinations you come up with. That would just be fantastic to see. So if you are interested in this spiral die stamp or any other products, you can visit my website at christineludwig.stampinup.net. You can follow me on Facebook and Pinterest at Christine Stamping Spot. Any questions, please email me, chris.ludwig@hotmail.com. And I have a new August host code, 9RZH9HMA. For anyone wanting to place an online order, you're welcome to use that host code. So I hope you had fun today, and we will see you again next time. Have a great week. Bye for now.